So thanks. Appreciate the invitation um, to join you all. And it's just so fun to see names, like I said at the beginning, names that I know. And let's see here, share the screen. And then people that I don't know. And I have about 45 minutes of slides to be sharing, as well as I'm an educator by training. So I do try to have a little bit of thinking and some interaction with that as well. So um, there we go. It's telling me that I am sharing, so I just want to make sure, thumbs up, Jonathan and Margaret, you can see the screen. We're good? Okay. And so I'd like to also do some things in chat as we move along. So I'm going to first go through just really quickly some slides, just some background there. So basically, I'm not an audiologist. I'm not a vendor. I'm not trying to sell you anything, and I don't have any financial interest in the products, but I do have a wonderful job where I do get paid for doing some advocacy. And so it's great to be connected with you. The work that I do is with Center for Hearing Access. It's based in Oregon. I get to work remotely here in Colorado, which is great, and trying to give people tools, resources, information so that people can hear better in the world with our hearing loss. So tonight, what I'd like for you to think about is that you have patience with yourself. Learning new things, learning new vocabulary just takes patience. And it's patience for ourselves as well as patience for others, as they are also learning some of these things as well. And then with this, I'd like to give you a foundation. You're not going to learn everything tonight, but I hope to give you a foundation that you can build upon so that you can, the third one, increase your hearing accessibility. And what you don't know, that you have at least some pointers with some resources, either with HLAA and or with Center for Hearing Access with that. And so we're going to talk about assistive listening. But before we get there, we have to say, well, why in the heck do we care? You know, technology's cool, it's shiny, it's good, but we need to know, why do we need to use it? So we're going to start there. And then after we cover some of the different ways we can hear, we're going to do just a tiny, slight touch about some advocacy and some self-advocacy so that we can hear better. So this first part is just what I said. We're going to be looking at why people with hearing loss need accessibility. So in the chat, so in your toolbar in Zoom, and it's usually at the bottom, depends on your device, it might be up at the top. Find your chat and answer the question in chat. So this is going to be, there's 32 people on here, 32 people all at the same time saying, if you go to a large event, whether it's theater, it might be a religious service. It might be something. Why is it going to be difficult to hear in public? So just think about that and type one word, a phrase, whatever, with why it's difficult to be hearing. So great, they're coming in with that. And, yeah, there's a PA system there. And if it's a good PA system, it might be easier to hear, but it's still going to be difficult for us to hear. Even with the best hearing aids, the top of the line, even with cochlear implants, it's still going to be difficult to hear. And so looking at some of that, it's going to be a lot. I know for me, it's with that background noise. So we're going to be hearing the air conditioning. We're going to be hearing people coughing. And we need to get that speaker to be in our ears just as clear as we possibly can. And we also need to get that speaker to be louder than that background noise. It's the SNR, signal to noise ratio, that audiologists talk about. We need to have that differential is bigger than with somebody with typical hearing loss. And other things, we have the distance, we have all of those problems that you mentioned in there to be saying, we have a problem. So what can we do about it? And so I first want to get into why things need to work with assistive listening. And you might be saying these first couple slides are stupid. It's like, well, we already get that, Wynne. But I'm hoping that you can connect the dots with things. So if you have a speaker, where does the microphone need to go? So we all know the microphones needs to be by the presenter. And we know that that microphone needs to be within about 6 or 12 inches. That's what's going to work. And you would never put the microphone in the back row and ask that presenter to speak. That wouldn't work well at all. So then if we go to the next one, and many of us have personal microphones, mini mic, multi mic, that kind of a thing. And we sometimes give like a lecture. We might give them that multi mic, mini mic, personal mic, whatever you want to call it. And it's the same concept that you want to get that audio captured just as close and as clearly as you can, and within 6 or 12 inches for that. And that you would never want to use that multi-mic in the back room because microphones simply cannot pick up something that is far away. There's a range that those microphones can only go about, that 6 or 12 inches with it. So then you say, okay, you've bought this microphone. When won't it work? So if you go to some kind of a performance, why can't you use a personal microphone there? And you have to figure out you can only put it on one person. So those personal microphones only work for one person to one person going on, or a one-to-one connection with it. Or here's another one. If you're in a big lecture, could everybody give that presenter the microphone, the mini mic? Well, sure, but that professor could wear a dozen microphones or so, and that doesn't work very well. So these are the problems in that we need to have microphones that can capture many people, as well as we're making a redundant system. If you put too many personal microphones in situations, it just doesn't work. And so people then say, oh, no problem. I have these wonderful hearing aids. That'll pick up the sound. And it won't. It's the same concept that microphone has a limited range to be able to pick up the sound with things, that they need to be close to it. So this is all emphasizing that our hearing aids, our cochlear devices, have microphones on them. They have a limited range and they do wonderful things about 6 to 8 feet. But beyond that, we need a remote microphone, or when we're in a group with a public situation, we need an assistive listening system. So you do have to have a little bit of some humor. That hearing loss is not about loudness. It's about that we can hear, but we can't understand, and we often misunderstand. So the first person says, "It's windy today." And the second person thinks he said Wednesday, but it's really windy. "No, it's Thursday." And the last person says, "So am I. Let's go have a beer." So hearing loss is about getting that clarity and about getting that audio just as close as that we can get to it. And getting that audio falls under the American with Disabilities Act. And what that simply says is that people with disabilities have equal access to
Hey,
that
I'm
audio.
sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt for a minute. Um, I'm just trying to clear something here. It seems to be that everyone is having an issue with the closed captioning, but I'm looking at mine. I'm looking at my closed captioning. It looks like everything's being caught up. Is your audio working? When is is your volume high?
Yeah, um, I can I can increase
Increase it, but also maybe speak a little louder.
a
So
little louder. Okay.
a little louder, so the closed captions can catch on.
Okay. I will try that. I am going to be adjusting my microphone here, and I will also try to project. I'll get my teacher voice out, even though we're on Zoom, and see if that helps as well with that captioning. So
Uh,
thanks for
I
stopping me.
apologize, everyone. I've tried to do everything I can since I'm the only leadership here tonight. But if you guys have any issues or anything, please let me know. I'm sorry to interrupt. The floor is yours.
Jonathan,
Okay.
Jonathan, I'm finding the captions and the voice are fine. Oh, there.
Thank you, Carol.
I
Okay, so it sounds like it's a quirky thing. And then to let you know on my end, if I lose you in Zoom, I'll just join back in. I've gotten just spur of the moment, I'm getting my spinning wheel with that. So we'll see if we can advance, or if I freeze, I'll jump back in here. So, yep. Sorry about that. If you can still hear me, I got Zoom has crashed on me. Don't you love this? So I'm going to get out and then I'm going to come back in.
Okay, no problem. All right, guys. I apologize. It looks like her computer just froze. So let's just take a minute or two. Once she comes back on. Thank you, Jamona. Okay, I see that she's jumping on right now. Uh, there she is. Um, um, trying to. Are you here, Wayne? Oh, I guess not. Okay. All right. Just hang on a minute. How's everyone liking the presentation so far? Okay. Thank you, Fred. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I was just saying to her earlier that her computer seems to be freezing and was a little slow, so that's why there was maybe an issue on her end. So maybe she needs to restart her computer and then go back on. So just bear with me. And I'm just while we're doing this, I am reading the chat rooms. I have experience putting on AuraCast on in here, and I receive AuraCast using my neck loop. I haven't. It is your key coil. Okay, she's coming back on, everyone. Who is going to the HLAA convention in Kentucky? Anyone? Okay, it looks like she just signed out again. Uh, there she is. Okay. Wayne, can you unmute yourself?
Okay, great. So, got to love technology. You get booted off, you come back in, and let me just move my toolbar and I will pick up here um, where we left off here.
Okay.
Okay, so, okay, before technical, hopefully captions are going to be working a little bit better. Hopefully I'm not going to be booted off of Zoom again. And away we go for part two here. So the ADA recognizes that we with hearing loss have a difficult time in public places. And so we should have equal access with no additional cost with that. Some people may not think that hearing loss is a disability, but it is, and that's how we can ask for accommodations under the ADA. And what is provided in the ADA is saying that we can have assistive listening systems. And what it does is it brings that audio from the presenter straight to our ears via some kind of technology. So, where can we expect this? Assistive listening systems is specifically called out in all of these places in the ADA, and people don't realize it. Theaters, lectures, legislative chambers, so our state capitol, our city council, public meeting rooms, as well as other places like senior communities, town halls, grocery stores, gymnasiums, and things like that. So, assistive listening systems, the concept before we get into any kind of technology is that we need a receiver. So the receiver is this rectangular box, and this one just is curved so it's easier to hold on to, and some kind of way to get it to our ears. And in this case, that it is headphones with it. So all assistive listening has this concept that somehow they get that audio over the river and through the woods to the receiver, and that gets to our ears. And that is the concept that we're going to be seeing over and over. So, what's really nice is that in our hearing aids, we can get a telecoil. And that essentially means that we don't have to pick up a receiver if it's a hearing loop. because it's built in there and it makes it easier that we can just switch to the telecoil program rather than picking up a receiver and headphones with it. So that telecoil is really, it's called the Mighty Telecoil from Dr. Reeds and Lynn. It's just such a great name with that. And so with that, if you do have a telecoil in a hearing loop, you just have to push it and you're going to be getting some clarity. So this next, uh,
Okay, looks like she got frozen again.
Dreading getting older. Well, what's
There
the
we go.
only way to avoid getting older is to die, right? Now, we all want to live a long life. We apparently just don't want to get old in order to. Sitting there and our young people in their 20s and 30s and 40s making fun of older people.
so assistive listening systems makes it clear. That's what our goal is to get it clear. And so there's now we have this umbrella, we have assistive listening, and then you say, well, you have all these technologies. Well, the analogy I like to use is that if you have a car, some people don't care how many pistons and how many cylinders and how the key fob works. They just want to use it. So whether it's an electrical vehicle or whether it's gasoline or whether it's diesel, it's still going to get you down the road. And it's the same thing with assistive listening, is that it doesn't matter what the technology is, but its goal is to get that audio to our ears. And the first one is with a hearing loop. So that's copper wire that's going to be in the floor. And then that's going to transmit the sound to our ears with the telecoil. The second one, which is the most popular in the United States, is FM. And I'll get into pictures, we do need to pick up equipment to use that second technology. And the third one gives us a lot more variety in ways that we can hear it. And so it's going to be figuring out some of those ways to get that audio to our ears. And that's why we have our little mascot saying that it's going to be an adventure to be learning and to be doing some of these. I'm not going to be covering the other ones. This is just to be complete. There's also infrared. It's not as common. Audio over Wi-Fi has latency concerns, big latency concerns. Direct wire, we're not going to do it. So as I mentioned with a hearing loop, what's really nice about it is that if you have a telecoil, you just walk in and you use it. And everybody else on the right is going to need to stop and borrow a receiver. So with the telecoil, it's around the world. It's over in 30 countries. So here is the Dublin Airport, Sydney Opera House, and they also have AuraCast. So they have both systems. The train, and then over in the UK, Phil sent me this. Fun to see the sign on the pavement with it. So that's just one technology. It brings it to our ears. And the way it works, as I mentioned, it brings that audio into the copper wire, and then that goes to our telecoil for hearing it. That's the way that it works. And because this is the Boston chapter, so there's a link. We keep track of all the hearing loops across the country. There's 84 hearing loops in Boston. You can download this. I just updated the list a few days ago. You can download it and you can go to many places, including the grocery store that had with Wegmans with the counter hearing loops. So what does this look like? So this is a place here in Colorado, and there is the copper wire on the floor in this lower left-hand corner. They put the flooring on top of it so it's invisible. But in the back room, the driver for it is there in the audio-visual rack. And then people that don't have telecoils can pick up a receiver. More pictures of hearing loops and the versatility. They can be temporary. So this is in Oregon. Or you can have a portable counter hearing loop. I use this sometimes when I go to meetings. Can be in city councils. And then in Oregon, at the ice cream store, they have a counter hearing loop. So it's one technology. It's the gold standard because it's the easiest for us to use. And now I'm going to move into that second one that you saw, and that's the FM systems. And I'm going to briefly show 2 slides just so that that is part of this progression to be moving into AuraCast. It's the most common one in the United States because it's very easy to install. And I'm just building. You've already seen this top 2 pictures. I've added to the bottom, if you're going to be using an FM system, you're going to need to pick up a receiver and a neck loop to be using with your telecoil with that. And then people that don't have telecoils or they don't have hearing aids, it's the same concept. They just borrow headphones and a receivers. What does that look like? So here's some of that equipment. It's all laid out on the left-hand side there. There are all the receivers. There's some neck loops at the beginning. There's those one-sided speakers, some headphones for people to borrow it. What does it look like? It's really easy to set up for the facilities. So it looks just like an FM radio tower that's small. It's just a box. It has a little antenna. It's hooked up to the sound mixer, and that's how it works. Easy for facilities, more difficult for us that have hearing aids because we have to find this equipment with it. Then moving into AuraCast, I'm going to just keep on building. So AuraCast is exciting. It's just beginning to get here. It's a new era. Much has been done. Much still needs to be done. So it makes it really exciting and it makes it really confusing all at the same time with that. So the diagrams I'm continuing to build. So this top one is, it looks like we just saw it in FM because connecting to AuraCast, you can still use your telecoil. That's how I'm using AuraCast these days with a neck loop. And that's how you can connect. Or if people don't have a device, it's the same concept. They can borrow headphones and a receiver. What makes it really nice is that people who don't have hearing loss can also use it. So they can connect with either their headphones that have AuraCast or their earbuds that have AuraCast. And then a fourth option is that eventually, if we choose to upgrade our devices, you can get AuraCast in the device itself and then use your phone to connect. So it's not quite as easy as a telecoil because a telecoil, you can just push your button on the hearing aid. If you get AuraCast in your hearing aid, you can then get some of that connection through your phone. And then this last one is if you have a mini mic, you can also connect to the receiver. There's some latency with that. So there's now 4 ways which are more confused, 4, maybe 5, more confusing with how do I connect to it, AuraCast. But everybody should be able to connect to it. Whether it's now, whether your hearing aid is 10 years old, or whether you're going to buy a brand new spanking clean hearing aid, it's all going to work with AuraCast. So I'm going to be building about AuraCast with a very simple home example and then building back up to assistive listening. So right now, for me to watch TV, and many of you probably have the streamer as well, if you have Widex hearing aids, you have a Widex streamer. If you have Phonak hearing aids, you have a Phonak streamer. They has to be the manufacturer. And what is changing with AuraCast is that you can put in an AuraCast transmitter and then you can hear it in your hearing aid with AuraCast, and you can hear that directly. It doesn't have to be the manufacturer to be selling you that equipment. And because it's universal, my friend can come over. So people with different kind of hearing aids can all sit on the same couch, all listen to that same movie using AuraCast transmitter. But it assumes that everybody has AuraCast in their hearing aid or in their cochlear implant, and it's turned on. So with this, with the terminology, AuraCast ready. So my cochlear implant is AuraCast ready. AuraCast is sitting there, but it's not turned on. I cannot use AuraCast in my cochlear implant. But my right side does have it turned on. And so that's called AuraCast enabled. So right now I can connect out of one ear with it, which makes it kind of fun. So how do you connect that? It's through your phone. It looks kind of like Wi-Fi, and you just connect and you say, I want to listen to the TV, or I want to listen to the presentation, or I want to listen to the church. And you select it on your phone through an app. And right now it's in the hearing aid app or the earbud apps. And so you connect that way through AuraCast. So what does it look like in a church? So on the left-hand side, here's what a church looks like, is that they have that radio tower. There's the FM. And the new one, it's still, most of them are going to be at the AV booth. Here's another church. It's a square device that's going to be transmitting. And they still have the receivers, and you have neck loops. And that's a really important concept because we're getting reports of, we just installed the transmitter. What's the problem? And they forget that people don't have AuraCast devices. So these receivers with the headphones and the neck loops are still essential and absolutely required because everybody has to connect to it. So then what does this look like? It's not in a church. So those of you that went last year or are going this year, here's the HLAA convention, and they had both. So on the floor is the hearing loop. You can see the tape on the floor, that's the hearing loop. But in the back is that white transmitter, and here's a bigger one, and that's hooked up to the AV booth. So you can have both of them happening at the same time with that. So personally, here's my story in Denver. The Buell Theater took out the FM system. They could have left it in, but they chose to take it out, and they put in AuraCast. And I've used it twice. Most people are using the receivers and the headphones, and they're the nice volunteer ushers, but I needed a neck loop because I can't connect to it with my cochlear. So I'm using the neck loop to connect to my cochlear implant. So it's the same way that we've been connecting all the ways. If you have AuraCast in your devices, in your hearing aids, you can connect directly with your phone to those streams. So then what else is happening throughout the world with AuraCast? So there are different trials going on, and this is one that's in a UK train station. And so I wanted to know what the train station looked like. So that's what it looks like outside. And they're putting it inside of a security box because they don't want that, that square transmitter that you saw. They don't want vandals to get into it. So they've put the security, that's that circle here, that security box around it. And they've mounted it up in the ceiling of the train station. You can see the lights up there. You can see there's the security camera over there. And they are testing it. What they're still figuring out is how far will it go? Will the hearing aid or the earbuds switch over? It's like the drop cell phone or cell coverage tower. Will it switch from one transmitter to another transmitter? Will the gate stations and the emergency, who has priority of how that audio is going to be transmitted? So they're doing some cool stuff, and there's some cool things that they're doing, but you can't say that every train station works 100% and it's in every train station because it's just beginning. Similarly, they have it in, um, let's see, in the Frankfurt airport, they have two gates they've put AuraCast in as a trial. So, like I said, we are beginning for this to be evolving, but it's not all there yet. It's going to take 2 to 10 years. People have to buy new hearing aids. They have to develop the software a little bit further. They have to work out some of the bugs. But what it's doing is that it's giving us another way to have a really nice assistive listening system. And so I put this in yellow because it's super important that we need to ask and buy hearing aids and cochlear implants that have both AuraCast and telecoils, because that's the only way that we can connect to AuraCast, to FM, to hearing loops, to infrared. We've had some reports where their audiologists sold them AuraCast only. And people show up at their favorite performing arts center with a hearing loop and they can't use it. And the only way that we can go anywhere we want to, anywhere in the world, is if we have a telecoil and AuraCast in our hearing devices. And so I've been writing quite a lot about that, and as well as others. And so there's some of the resources there as well. Um, I'm going to I'm watching the time. I have a few more slides. I know I cut out for a couple minutes there, so I'm going to go quickly. One of the things with these different systems is how fast can that audio get to our ears? What is the latency? That's the technical term. And the existing ones, hearing loop, FM, infrared, virtually no latency. It's really good. With AuraCast, there can be some latency, meaning that it's going to be delayed. So if you have, you might, because of the latency, you might hear it twice so that you hear it through the room and then you hear it through the assistive listening. And that's what they need to keep working on, to be bringing that latency down with it.
And the second group that we followed was a group of boys.
So that brief audio clip, you could hear it wasn't clear. That's what 47 seconds of latency is. It's just problematic. It's hard to hear with it. So getting into advocacy, the way that we can ask for this is saying we have a disability, that we have the right to be hearing clearly, and that if it's not working, we have to say something about it. And that takes a little bit of bravery, a little bit of time to be writing that feedback or that complaint with that. So I'm going to just go through, sorry. So this first one is that you should have signage to tell us that it's there. And then we have lots of resources as well as some of the HLAA toolkit for the hearing loops has some things to make it easier to say, hey, you know, that didn't work so well. And rather than reinventing the wheel, we have a lot of it written for you. So encouraging you to just know where they are. Some people are making the lists that they're available with that. And then encouraging you that at every meeting doing an update. What assistive listening are you listening to? How is it working? And just share within the community. So if all the Boston people are talking about Boston assistive listening, that's great. And if all the Washington State people are talking, then we know what's happening and we can support each other with that. So we need clarity, we need assistive listening, and then it's all going to coexist with that. So I'm hearing a lot of background noise, and then I'm ready for some questions and answers. And hopefully you're monitoring the chat. And with 26, I'm not even going to try to skim it. So
Okay, before we go to the questions, Wayne, can you stop sharing your screen so I can go back to mine?
yes, happy to. There we
Okay,
go.
before I show my PowerPoint, let's take this opportunity to, if you have any questions or anything, please start asking questions in the chat room. And that was a wonderful presentation, so thank you very much. That was a quite experience and able for all of us to be educated about AuraCast and what a game changer what's happening and able to honor the ADA and how much it's so important to all of us here today to know how can we make this so useful to us? And there's still a lot of work to do. So again, thank you so much for this presentation. It was amazing, and all these technologies, tools, etc. And I've been looking in the chat room where everybody's talking about hearing aid brands, which hearing aid works with what and so forth. And a lot of people have said Phonex, Audicon, Starkey, Resound, etc. So yeah, there's
There's so we maintain a list of every hearing aid that has both AuraCast and a telecoil. And I'll send you all these links, Jonathan. I'm happy to share the slides there and there. So it's all in there, as well as a list of all the hearing aids that just have a telecoil with it.
Absolutely, and then I see someone in the chat room, Chini and Dawn, that are asking, do hearing aids have AuraCast capability? How do we know our hearing aids exist? And somebody seems to answer already because that's exactly what happened with me. That I didn't even know that my Phonex hearing aid had a T coil in it until I went to the audiologist and said, "Hey, I want one too." And so you will have to go to your audiologist, and your audiologist can program it for you.
Exactly. Perfect. So it starts with that conversation with your audiologist or hearing instrument specialist to be saying, what do you have? How do you use it? And where can I find the systems?
And another thing I would like to add is that most audiologists never ask that question. Do you want a T-coil? Do you want an AuraCast in your hearing aid? And I don't understand why they always leave that topic out. So always make sure to ask the audiologist that, this is your life. This is what you depend on.
Well said. Well said. And you're saying it exactly is that it becomes our responsibility to initiate that question and that conversation. I saw that. Is there any, no, I saw a question come through. It popped up as far as, will a telecoil ever not be compatible? And the answer is no. So it always will be compatible. The telecoil always works with that. The problems usually are going to be in that borrowed equipment that the battery doesn't work. Or, somebody fiddled and they broke the knob or something. Or I've had it where somebody forgot to just turn on the transmitter. They're at the AV booth. So there's just so many easy things that can be done. Where one of my feedback that I just gave to a performing arts, I said, if you would just play music before
It looks like she got
I can
frozen
do
a little
that,
bit.
that would help as well.
Yes, absolutely. I definitely agree with everything what you're saying, and it's how you want to work. So my advice to you is that whenever you go to events like concerts, plays, etc., go onto their website and ask for a combination and have it to be work because I'm sure that they have technologies and equipment set for you already. Um, you know, um, I'm sure that some of you are already going to the Kentucky for the convention, and we are expecting this hotel because it's a brand new hotel, so they are going to have T-coil there.
Yeah. So if you're coming, I'll be there. I'd love to visit with you more. Happy to answer more questions. I saw another chat question come up about why is assistive listening not required there? And it's basically separation of church and state, that the government cannot mandate what churches can do to be putting assistive listening in. With the exception of a couple of states like California, it is required with that. And I also, times running, I also saw one, Fred said, made a comment there about self-advocacy, and you nailed it on the head there. It is absolutely critical for us to be saying, not only that I have a hearing loss, but I have a hearing loss and this is what I need, because everybody's needs are a little bit different. So saying, you know, I need a neck loop, those headphones aren't going to work for me. I need, not I need, but it would be helpful if I could have that music ahead of time. It would be
I
helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. And it's like other words, most churches are grandfathered. So It's like when it's done, and there's something that they can't really do to add those equipment unless they build a brand new church.
Yeah, but that's where our advocacy turns from self-advocacy into saying, I would like to hear better at church and to be advocating to be putting in a system. And so that not only that we can hear, but other people who don't know how to ask and to get an assistive listening in, because you can add it anytime and you can add any of them. A hearing loop, they're still being installed. It is still the gold standard because of the ease of us with hearing loss. AuraCast isn't there, but AuraCast is simpler to put in. And so it's going to be a choice with weighing the pros and cons for putting in a new system or replacing, an old system that's not working. So I see Margaret's,
Um, yeah,
yeah.
before you answer Chini's question, let's go to Margaret because Margaret has her hand raised for a while. So Margaret, do you have a question or anything
Hi,
to add?
we're blessed in Maine to have a fantastic AuraCast project going on. And there's one theater completely installed, rave reviews. There's two more coming in the next month or so. But in defense of churches and also like a reality check is that the hearing loops are very hard to retrofit. So to say that a church can just like, oh, put this in, I don't think so. You have to rip up their whole flooring. AuraCast is easier. The first system that was put in on the coast of Down East, Rockland Theater Opera House in Waterville up in northern Maine. Um, the first one cost about $5,000 or $6,000. That included the transmitter, the and about 12 receivers. And it's going well. It's been wildly well received, but it does cost a lot of money. I just want to mention that the we have an audiologist who is working with the Starkey Foundation, and they're underwriting quite a bit of this. So there's money out there for theaters and venues. I also want to say that the nobody, I mean, if you look at the ADA, we can't complain, and we should. I always ask for um, whatever devices they have. 90% of the time they're lousy, they don't work. But the fact that we're asking and that we can say to them, golly gee, the guys down the street have open captions every Tuesday for every single film. So to be aware of what's around you and to make a case that it's costing them money because I can't go to your theater. And then one last comment is the idea of the audiologist is there are good audiologists and there are bad audiologists. So if your audiologist is not open to this and aware actually of this technology, you can make a switch and get a second opinion.
Thank you, Margaret. That was a very well said. It absolutely, it's very important to have audiologists to be involved, and especially their lived-in experience and knowing and how many patients they deal with every day, and knowing that how many people with hearing loss need to have those hearing access into many places. And thank you very much for sharing with that. She even put it, Margaret even put it in the chat room somewhere about the AuraCast in Maine, and it's unbelievable. Yeah, thank you, Margaret, for sharing that information. And we got a couple more minutes. I know that we got past 7:30, but I thought to give a little bit more time since Wayne's computer froze a little bit earlier. So we're gonna do one more. Somebody did ask, how do we know if our hearing aids are AuraCast capable? When did that start to happen? So yours, Wayne.
Yeah, so really good question. So AuraCast started going into hearing aids about 2 or 3 years ago. So, if you bought them, you may have them, you may not. You cannot retrofit. You can't take in 10-year-old hearing aids and say, hey, add AuraCast, because you have to have new hardware. You have to get a hardware chip, which is low energy Bluetooth. And then one of the features on that is AuraCast. So it's really what we've been talking about, both Margaret and Jonathan, is you have to trust your audiologist. They have to work for you, and that you can communicate well to be saying you need both. So it's going to be from here forward of some of those new purchases. If to answer your question, how do you know? Talk to your audiologist. That's, we have a list, but they're going to have the best answer. Yeah.
Can you post that list or can you post that URL, Wynne,
Yeah. I don't
of
know
the
that,
list?
yeah, if somebody else can talk, I can go grab it and see, but I want to make sure I can send that afterwards, for emailing. I'm happy to do that. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I'm gonna get back to the share screen to share you with our upcoming events. And before we close it out, so yeah, everybody can see that now. So our upcoming events are what the HLA Boston chapter are doing. So I'm trying to go to the next slide. And there we go. So we got this QR code. Who loves baseball? Um, the Woodchester Red Sox are hosting Deaf and Hard of Hearing Awareness Game Night. And every ticket sold, $10 goes into the HLA Boston chapter nonprofit foundation. So it's going to be this Friday, May 22nd. There are still tickets available. Of course, May 22nd is the deadline. So whenever you take a time, scan the QR code. You could go onto our Instagram to click on our website. It's under events or in our bio. And also, I'd like to add, not only that it's Deaf and Hard of Hearing Awareness Game Night, it's also Star Wars night.
Ah,
Yes. I was like, oh, cool. We got to feel the force in our hearing aids. Just saying. And of course, we got this Kentucky Louisville, and I'm looking forward to see everyone there. It's going to be on June 10th to the 12th. I am arriving on the 9th, so if you guys want to catch up and meet with me, I am available for questions, advice, collaboration, everything. So of course, you can go on the HLA website to register and the hotels and everything. It's always a blast. So I'm definitely looking forward to see you guys there. And I got one more event, and that goes to Madrid. So Madrid is we got this HLAA. I'm sorry, the Devon Hard of Hearing Awareness Game Night in Maine of the Portland Sea Dogs, Double A, which uh, collaborated with the Boston Red Sox. So, of course, you go on their website and you can purchase tickets there. If you have any interest of going to the game, please email to Margaret. Margaret will be adding her email address in the chat room. So if you guys are interested in going, reach out to her. She'll send you the link. Again, always a great time. It's always the best time, just our safe space. our community. We get to collaborate. We get to have fun. So yeah, and of course, at the end, we're still fighting. So I'm a statewide advisory council for the Massachusetts Commission for the Hard of Hearing, and we got this bill in place called H4959. It's insurance coverage for hearing aid act bill. And again, it's in our website, it's in our bio. You can take a picture of the QR code. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I'll be happy to share along the information about this bill. It's very important, and it's looking pretty good so far. So hopefully we'll get that done. At the end, get in touch with us. You can, of course, contact us through our website. You can email us at hlaboston@gmail.com, and then you see our several social media: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. I forgot to add LinkedIn. Sorry. So with that being said, it looks like this has been a pleasant meeting. It looks like everyone had just left because I know that we're all very hungry. I know I am. I am ready for dessert and dinner. Before we close it out, I want to again say thank you to Margaret for helping me and supporting and organizing this meeting tonight. And Wyman, thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. And it has been a wonderful meeting tonight. And again, like I said earlier, this is being recorded, and all this is going to be in our YouTube tomorrow. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a wonderful night. Bye.
Thank you.